Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
This time we're going to talk about an album called Two-Way Conversation,
Oh, cool.
and it's by Barney Kessel and Red Mitchell.
Okay.
You ever heard of this one?
I have not.
Yeah, so it's funny. I was listening to a bunch of different jazz guitar and bass,
Yeah.
and just kind of came across this and thought, how did I miss this one? So that's what we're going to try to explore today is this album.
Cool.
We're pulling mostly from album reviews that we found online and some information about the album and musicians.
Awesome.
So,
Sounds fun.
yeah, I think you'll like this one. You might want to add it to your collection.
Cool.
Okay, so just to give everybody a little bit of background, Barney Kessel was a pretty legendary jazz guitarist.
Right.
He was influenced by all the greats, Charlie Parker, Django Reinhardt,
Oh, wow.
all of them.
Nice.
And then Red Mitchell was a bass player. And he was one of the first people to start playing bass in fifths tuning,
Really?
which, is
I did not know that.
it's a way of tuning the bass that gives it a much wider range and makes it, I don't know, I don't want to get too much into the technicalities of it.
Yeah, sure.
But
It's interesting, though.
this very unique sound. And if you listen to this album, you'll hear how it works.
Okay.
So the really interesting thing about this album is that it is just guitar and bass,
Wow.
which is a pretty cool format, I think. It really
Yeah.
forces the musicians
Yeah.
to work
Yeah.
together and create something.
Absolutely.
And there's no hiding behind anything.
Totally.
It's just them
Yeah.
and their instruments.
Mm.
And so I think that
Yeah.
it creates a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And I was reading one review
Yeah.
that described it as a musical conversation,
Oh, wow.
which I thought was really apt. The bass player, Tim Miller, described it as like a tennis match back and forth.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so you can
That's
kind
a
of
good analogy.
get that feeling when you're listening to it of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this back and forth
Uh-huh.
interplay between the two.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about,
Oh, okay.
I guess we could start with the title track,
Okay.
Two-Way Conversation, because I think that kind of sets the tone for the album.
Gotcha.
They're really trading lines back and forth. And you can hear Kessel's guitar,
Yeah.
which is very warm and
Yeah.
clean and just, that classic kind of swing and bebop style
Yeah.
that he was known for.
Awesome.
One of the things I read is that he modified his Gibson ES350P guitar extensively
Oh, wow.
to get like the exact sound he wanted. He swapped out the pickup,
Wow.
removed the pick guard, and even added dot inlays.
Wow.
So
No,
he
really customized that.
really took the time to
Yeah.
dial in his tone. And I think that comes through
Yeah.
on this album.
That's cool.
And then Red Mitchell, who he
Yeah.
was not only a bass player, but also a pianist and a vocalist.
Wow.
But on this album,
Wow. Triple threat.
he's obviously focusing on the bass. And some reviewers have said that his bass playing on this album is just like gorgeous melodic solos.
Wow.
Mind-boggling.
Nice.
Just really incredible.
So they didn't hold back.
No, they really didn't.
Yeah.
And so we've been talking about these guys a lot.
Yeah.
But like, what about the music?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the tracks on this album?
What are we listening for?
Yeah, that we should be listening for.
Yeah.
So I think like Walkin' and Talkin' is a good place to start. It's very relaxed, laid back.
Okay.
It showcases their interplay really well.
Uh-huh.
And then Summertime,
Yeah.
which starts with this like almost modernist, kind of intro that you don't really expect from a classic jazz standard. And then they kind of go into
their own thing.
their own interpretation of it, which is really cool.
That.
So it's like they're taking something familiar
Right,
and making
yeah.
it their own, which is pretty cool.
It's always nice to hear a fresh take.
Yeah. And then how about Wave? Wave has got this like beachy, relaxed vibe.
Oh, cool.
Kessel's use of these chordal motifs is just incredible.
Yeah.
And then I'm on My Way.
Okay.
Now this one's like a really snappy,
Hi.
up-tempo kind of tune
Yeah.
that just makes you want to like snap
me?
your fingers and tap your feet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then Red Mitchell's bass solo on Alone Again, naturally, is absolutely incredible.
Okay.
I mean, he just really digs deep on that one
Yeah.
and showcases his technique and his
Yeah.
tone and everything.
Awesome.
It's really a moment of beauty on the album.
Wow. So he can do it all.
He really can. I always thought of him as just like the bass innovator guy.
Right.
But this one really reminded me that he was also a master of melody.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and just his ability to like
Yeah.
craft these really beautiful lyrical lines is just awesome.
So we've got those. We've got their originals, their take on the standards.
Yeah.
What else have we got here?
Right.
Well, they also do a version of Killing Me Softly with his song.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Which was a big hit.
Really?
In 73 for Roberta Flack.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Like a pop hit.
I know, right? When I saw it on there, I was like, how is this going to work?
Right.
But they totally pull it off.
Wow.
It's really cool.
So they guessed it up.
Yeah, they give it this like cool laid back feel.
Yeah.
And, you know, they strip away all the excess production of the original and just get to the heart of the melody.
The core.
And it's beautiful.
Wow. That's awesome.
You know, it really makes you realize that good music is good music.
Yeah.
No matter what the genre.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it speaks to, I think, their open-mindedness as musicians.
Totally.
That they weren't afraid to, like...
You know, venture into the pop world and take something. And
make it their own.
Make it their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think this whole album is just making me think about the power of, like, a duo.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that in some ways it's more challenging than playing with a larger ensemble.
Yeah.
Because
you've got nowhere to hide.
You have nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
It's just you and your musical partner.
Absolutely.
And you have to be able to you know, really connect and communicate and anticipate each other's moves.
Right.
There's a lot of trust involved.
For sure.
And I think
it sounds like they had that, though.
You could hear that on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a real sense of trust and mutual respect between the two.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's funny because before we started talking about this today, I'd heard both these guys, but I had never heard this album.
Oh,
I know.
That's crazy.
And it really makes you wonder what else is out there.
Totally.
You know?
For sure.
Like, what other little gems am I missing?
Right.
What other guitar and bass duos have created magic in the studio? I mean, it's such a cool format and it's so intimate and engaging that you just feel like you're right there in the room with them. It's like they're having a conversation with you as the listener.
Totally.
You know?
That's cool.
And who would want to sit down and have a conversation with Barney Kessel and Red Mitchell?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
Lucky us to be able to listen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about the musicians.
Yeah.
We've talked about the format. We've talked about the tracks.
Yeah.
What does it all mean?
Right.
Like, why should our listeners care about an album that came out almost 50 years ago? Is it just a history lesson or is there something more to it?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think it just goes to show that, like, you know, artistry, like, transcends time, you know? Yeah. It's not about trends or popularity. It's about genuine expression and connection and just the sheer joy of making music together.
Right.
You know? And I think that this album is a testament to the power of simplicity. You know, they're not trying to be flashy or, you know, do anything crazy. It's just two guys, you know, communicating through music.
Exactly.
And that's what makes it so special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think that there's something about this album that just like demands your attention. You know?
Yeah.
You can't just have it on in the background. You have to like sit down and really listen to it.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's part of the reason why it feels so fresh even after all these years. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's not trying to be anything other than what it is. It's just pure musical expression.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
And I think that that's something that we could all appreciate no matter what kind of music we're into.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that's a good point.
Yeah. It's true. And like you're saying, it's like it makes you want to focus, you know?
Yeah. It's like
just
an antidote to the modern world.
Totally.
Where everything is, you know,
so fast.
Fast-paced and there's so much stimulation.
That's a meditation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to slow down and really just
take it in.
Be present with it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a valuable thing in today's world.
Yeah, I agree.
So, we were talking about how this album demands your attention.
Right.
And I think that that's part of what makes it so timeless.
Yeah.
You know,
it is.
It's not trying to be trendy.
It's just pure music.
Yeah, it's just pure musical expression.
Yeah.
And there's something really beautiful about that.
That's
it's like
don't give me.
It's like a breath of fresh air.
Exactly.
There's just two guys in a room making music.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I love that.
And so I guess the question for our listeners is if you enjoyed this album, what other guitar and bass duos are out there that you should check out?
Totally.
And there's got to be...
What other gems are hidden?
Yeah, what other hidden gems are waiting to be discovered? And I think that that's one of the most exciting things about music.
Absolutely.
Is that there's always something new to find.
Totally, for sure.
There's always something that you haven't heard before.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what keeps it so fresh and exciting.
I agree.
So, yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Awesome.
I think this has been a really fun deep dive.
Yeah, I agree.
And I hope that our listeners have enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Of course.
And we'll see you next time.
See ya. Absolutely. And I think, what else is really cool about it is it's not like super technically difficult music.
Right. Right.
It's not like they're shredding or anything like that. Right. It's just really tasteful.
Yeah, it's like...
and elegant.
It's about the feeling,
Totally.
It's not about showing off.
It's like a conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not a lecture.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's...
yeah, and they're just so good.
Something that's really special about this album is that it's just so...
for sure.
Approachable.
Yeah, it's inviting.
Yeah. It's like, come on in.
Yeah.
Let's check out and have a listen.
Have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that we could all use a little bit more of in our lives.
Yeah. For sure.
Just a little bit more conversation.
Yeah.
A little bit more
music.
Connection.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it.
Awesome.
I hope that you've enjoyed this deep dive into two-way conversation.
Yeah, me too.
It's been a real pleasure talking about this album with you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I encourage all of our listeners to go out and find a copy of this album.
Yeah.
Give it a listen.
Absolutely.
And let us know what you think. You know?
I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So, until next time.
Until next time.
Happy listening.
Yeah. Take care.